Colt revolver trembled in Jonas McLean's hand, smoke still rising from the barrel. Sheriff Tom Whitaker lay motionless in the dirt, blood pooling dark beneath his temple. The crowd's roar crashed over the town square like thunder. Murderer. Mara Sullivan knelt beside the sheriff's body, her hands slick with crimson. She looked up at Jonas, lips moving soundlessly. He killed him. Mrs. Henderson's voice cut through the chaos. The rancher killed the sheriff to keep the land. Jonas didn't run, didn't lower the gun. His eyes locked on Mara's face, those eyes that had known nothing but cruelty from this town. Deputy Garrett's boots pounded dirt. Drop it, McLean. The deputy's finger tensed on the trigger. Jonas stood frozen. But Mara's hand reached for something in the dust, the fallen weapon. She raised it slowly, her voice steady despite the blood. He didn't shoot anyone. I did. Leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments along with the city you're watching from. Now let's continue with the story. The world stopped breathing. Mara's confession hung in the air like gun smoke. Jonas lunged forward, chains rattling as Deputy Garrett yanked him back. No, Mara. What are you? Garrett's fist connected with Jonas's jaw. He tasted copper, felt a tooth loosen. The crowd surged forward, a wall of rage and righteous fury. Hang her, someone screamed. The fat girl shot the sheriff. Mara stood slowly, the gun dangling from her fingers. She didn't flinch when the first stone struck her cheek, splitting the skin. Blood ran down to her collar. She's lying to protect him. Mrs. Henderson pushed through the mob, her voice shrill with manufactured grief. Tom was investigating the Sullivan mine. Jonas murdered him to steal it, $50,000 in silver. More stones flew. Mara raised her arms to shield her face. Jonas fought against Garrett's grip. The deputy's arm locked around his throat. She didn't do it, Garrett. You know she didn't. Another blow silenced him. His vision blurred. Garrett wrenched the gun from Mara's hand, sniffed the barrel. His face went pale. This isn't regular gunpowder. It's mining explosive. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat. Mrs. Henderson seized the moment. Check his saddlebag. Jonas had the mine map and the debt papers. Tom was going to expose him. Two men tore through Jonas's belongings. They pulled out a yellowed map, a stack of papers with Sheriff Whitaker's signature. The damning evidence spilled across the dirt. $3,670. One read aloud. Due in 30 days or foreclosure. The noose of circumstance tightened. Garrett's voice cracked. Jonas McLean, Mara Sullivan, you're both under arrest. He was looking at his uncle, his eyes wet. Trial's tomorrow at noon. Judge Parker's coming from Santa Fe. No trial, Mrs. Henderson shrieked. Lynch them tonight. The crowd roared agreement. Garrett drew his weapon, backing toward the jailhouse with his prisoners. Mara stumbled, weak from the assault. Jonas caught her elbow. Their eyes met for one desperate second. Why? He whispered, before she could answer. Sheriff Whitaker's hand twitched, his fingers clawed at the dirt. He was still alive, and his lips were moving, forming words no one could hear. 3 months earlier. Jonas's hands shook as he read the bank notice. Final warning, $3,670. Due in 90 days or foreclosure. He looked at the tin box on his kitchen table. $47.50. Everything he had left. He walked to the window, surveying his 67 cattle grazing on parched land. Skin and bones. Everyone. At market prices, maybe $800 total. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Jonas's fist slammed into the wall. The photograph of Sarah tumbled from the mantel, glass shattering across the floor. His wife's smile looked up at him from the wreckage. 5 years gone, and still the debt from her funeral crushed him. He'd failed her. He was failing her memory. 2 months later, Deputy Garrett rode up to the ranch at sunset. Jonas watched his wife's nephew dismount, with the careful movements of a man bearing bad news. "Uncle Tom has a plan," Garrett said, not meeting Jonas's eyes. "To help with the debt. I don't want charity. It's not charity, it's practical." Garrett shifted his weight. "There's going to be a bride selection. The town's got more men than women. Tom's organizing it official-like." Jonas turned away. "I'm not interested in." "You need a wife to keep the land. Bank says a single man's not stable enough for an extension." Garrett pulled a flask from his pocket, took a long drink. "There's a girl, Mara Sullivan. Michael Sullivan's daughter." The name meant nothing to Jonas. "No one wants her." Garrett continued. "She's big, real big. Been living with her aunt since her father died. You marry her, no one expects a dowry. Tom can arrange the debt extension. Everyone wins. Except the girl. She'd be grateful." Garrett finally looked at him. "Better than what she's got now." 6 weeks before the selection, Jonas rode into town for supplies. He told himself he wasn't looking for her. But when he heard the shouting behind the general store, his feet carried him there anyway. Mara Sullivan knelt in the dirt, dishwater soaking through her dress. Mrs. Henderson stood over her, arms crossed. "You eat like a pig. You clean like a pig," the older woman spat. "Maybe if you weren't so fat, you'd be worth something." Mara didn't respond. She simply wrung out her rag and continued scrubbing the porch steps. A boy, maybe 8 years old, threw a rock that struck her shoulder. She flinched, but didn't cry out. Jonas watched her slip a piece of bread from her apron pocket after Mrs. Henderson left. She walked behind the church, where 3 orphan children huddled in the shade. She gave them the bread, all of it, and sat with them while they ate. The girl everyone called worthless had just given away her lunch. A month before the selection, Jonas spent 3 days at the land office, reading through decade-old records by candlelight. The clerk thought he was crazy. Maybe he was. But there it was. In faded ink, the deed transfer for his ranch, signed by Michael Sullivan, selling 640 acres to Jonas McLean for $2,000. Except Jonas had never bought land from Michael Sullivan. He'd purchased it from Henderson Bank after the previous owner abandoned it. The signature was forged. Someone had stolen Sullivan's land, created false papers, and sold it through the bank. Jonas had been living on stolen property for 10 years. 3 weeks ago, Sheriff Tom Whitaker came to Jonas's ranch after midnight. He carried a rusted tin box. "Before you say anything," Tom began, "I need you to know I helped Mary Henderson forge those papers." Jonas's hand went to his gun. "Michael Sullivan was my best friend," Tom said quickly. "Mary poisoned him. I couldn't prove it then, but I can now." He opened the tin box. Inside lay a wax cylinder recording and documents. Michael knew he was dying. He recorded everything. Jonas lifted the cylinder carefully. "Why wait 10 years?" "Because I was a coward." Tom's voice cracked. "Mary threatened my family. But now, He pressed the box into Jonas's hands. If you marry Mara, she inherits legally. Then we arrest Mary with this evidence. The land goes back to its rightful owner. Justice. Finally. Why not just arrest her now? She's got lawyers, hired guns, money. We need Mara protected by marriage law first. Then we move. 2 weeks before the selection, Jonas saw Mara at the mercantile. She counted 17 cents 3 times, hoping the number would change. It didn't. Not enough for flour. The shopkeeper sneered. Come back when you have real money, fatty. Jonas stepped forward, dropped $2 on the counter. Her flour and mine. Mara stared at him. Up close, her eyes were extraordinary gray, like storm clouds, and full of something Jonas recognized. Survival. I don't accept charity, she said. Not charity. Call it an advance. He tipped his hat. Jonas McLean. I know who you are. But she took the flour. Why? Maybe I see something everyone else is blind to. For the first time, someone had looked at Mara Sullivan and not found her wanting. Yesterday morning, Tom had returned to Jonas's ranch with the tin box. Tomorrow's the selection. After you marry her, we make our move. The recording is all the proof we need. But now, in the jail cell, Jonas pulled out the box. The cylinder was gone. Someone had stolen the only evidence that could save them. The jail cell smelled of rust and desperation. Jonas pressed his face against the iron bars, separating him from Mara's cell. He could see only her shadow on the opposite wall. Mara. His voice was hoarse. Why did you say you shot him? Silence stretched between them. Then, quietly. Because someone has to pay, and you have a future worth protecting. I have nothing. The bank took everything. You have your name, your dignity. A pause. No one's ever seen those things in me. Jonas slammed his palm against the wall. That's a lie this town told you. I see you, Mara. I've been seeing you. Through the crack where the stones didn't quite meet, he glimpsed her hand reaching toward the wall. He placed his own hand against the cold surface, imagining he could feel her warmth through the barrier. You were going to use me, she whispered. Tom's plan. I heard him talking to Garrett weeks ago. Marry the worthless fat girl to legitimize the land claim. Jonas's throat tightened. That's how it started. But then I watched you give bread to orphans. I saw you smile at a sparrow on a fence post. I saw someone beautiful that this whole damn town is too blind to notice. Don't lie to make me feel better. I'm not lying. I'm telling you what I should have said the day I chose you. He leaned his forehead against the wall. I chose you because I wanted to. Not because Tom told me to. Not for the land. For you. He heard her breath catch, then something that might have been a sob. Boots echoed in the corridor. Deputy Garrett appeared, carrying a tray of food. Real food chicken. Bread. Vegetables, not prison slop. Eat, Garrett said gruffly, sliding plates under the cell doors. You'll need your strength. For the hanging, Jonas asked bitterly. Garrett glanced toward the door, then lowered his voice. I sent a telegram to Santa Fe. Found someone Jake Morrison, a miner. He was at the Sullivan mine the night Michael died. His eyes shone with something Jonas hadn't seen in years, hope. He saw Mary Henderson there. He'll testify. Jonas stood so fast he rattled his chains. When? He's riding through the night, Should be here by noon tomorrow, before the trial. Garrett pulled a folded paper from his coat. Judge Parker agreed to hear new evidence. If Jake testifies, we can prove Mary killed Michael. Everything changes. Why would this Morrison risk coming forward now? His daughter's sick, needs medicine money. I offered $200. Garrett's jaw tightened. My savings, every cent. But it's worth it to stop that woman. Mara's voice drifted through the wall. What about Sheriff Whitaker, is he? Alive, critical, but alive. Garrett's expression softened. Doc says if he wakes up, he can tell us what really happened in that square. The weight pressing on Jonas's chest eased slightly. Tom alive. A witness coming. Evidence that could unravel Mary Henderson's web of lies. There's more, Garrett continued. I've been going through Tom's files. He kept records, years of them. Every suspicious death, every convenient accident around Mary Henderson. It's all documented. He met Jonas's gaze. We can end this. All of it. For the first time since the gunshot, Jonas felt something other than despair. If Jake testifies tomorrow, can you get Mara released, even if they hold me? The judge is fair. If we prove Mary's the real murderer, he'll see through her lies about Mara. After Garrett left, Jonas knocked gently on the wall. Did you hear that? Yes. Mara's voice was stronger now. Jonas, if we get out of this, what happens then? What do you want to happen? Long silence. Then, I want to stay at the ranch. Not as your charity case, as your partner, your equal. Her voice dropped to barely a whisper. Your wife. For real this time. Jonas pressed both palms against the wall. Then that's what we'll be. Partners, equals, together. He felt a slight vibration through the stone Mara's hand, mirroring his on the other side. Get some rest, he said. Tomorrow, we fight, and we win. As midnight approached, Jonas allowed himself to imagine it, morning sun on Mara's face. The ranch restored, a future built on truth instead of lies. The phantom warmth of her hand through the wall sustained him as he drifted toward uneasy sleep. The gunshot shattered the night. Shouts erupted outside. Horses thundered past the jailhouse. Garrett's voice rang out, sharp with panic. Jonas pressed against the bars. What's happening? Garrett burst through the door minutes later, his face ashen. He gripped the cell bars, knuckles white. Jake Morrison, he gasped. They found him on the road, 3 miles outside town. Jonas's blood turned to ice. And, shot through the head, he's dead. Dawn brought no mercy. Judge Parker arrived 3 hours early, his black carriage cutting through morning fog like a hearse. Behind him rode Mary Henderson's lawyer, a sharp-eyed man from Denver named Blackwood, who carried leather portfolios thick with documents. Garrett paced outside Jonas's cell. Without Jake, we have nothing. Tom's still unconscious. The recording cylinder's gone. He slammed his fist against the wall. We're out of ammunition. Then we tell the truth, all of it. Truth. Garrett laughed bitterly. Against Mary Henderson's money and lawyers, we'll sound like desperate men inventing stories. Boots clicked down the corridor. Mary Henderson appeared, dressed in morning black despite Tom still clinging to life. Her smile was porcelain perfect. Good morning, Jonas. She settled onto the bench outside his cell like she was taking tea. I've come with an offer. Go to hell. Such hostility. Mary's eyes gleamed. Here's what's going to happen. At 9 o'clock, you'll stand before Judge Parker. The evidence against you is substantial. The mine map in your saddlebag, the debt papers, your gun with your fingerprints. She leaned forward. You'll hang Jonas, unless you accept my generous proposal. Blackwood stepped forward, sliding papers through the bars. Plead guilty to attempted murder. Mrs. Henderson drops all claims on the Sullivan estate. Miss Sullivan goes free. You serve 15 years instead of hanging. Jonas stared at the papers. And if I refuse? You both hang. Mary's voice turned cold. And I inherit everything anyway, as Mara's legal guardian. The land, the mine, all of it. You have no evidence against Mara, don't I? Mary produced another document. Dr. Pierce has documented her mental instability for years. Self-harm, delusions, violent tendencies. She tilted her head. Who will the judge believe, a respected physician or a disturbed girl everyone knows is troubled? Garrett grabbed the cell bars. That's fabricated. You paid Pierce. Careful, deputy. Blackwood's voice cut like a blade. Accusations without evidence are dangerous. Speaking of which, you spent all night alone with the accused. One might wonder if you've been coaching them. The trap snapped shut around every word. Mary stood, smoothing her skirts. I'll give you 1 hour to decide. After that, the offer expires. She paused at the doorway. Oh, and Jonas, the bank foreclosed on your ranch this morning. My brother James is quite efficient. After she left, Jonas gripped the bars until his hands bled. Your brother owns the bank. Garrett nodded miserably. Henderson Bank has for 20 years. I should have told you. What else didn't you tell me? Garrett's face crumbled. He sank onto the bench, head in his hands. When he finally looked up, tears tracked down his weathered face. 10 years ago, he whispered, when Sarah died. The wagon accident. Jonas went still. What about it? It wasn't an accident. Garrett's voice broke. Someone cut the axle. I found the saw marks the next day, after they'd buried her and your daughter. The world tilted. Jonas couldn't breathe, couldn't think. What did you say? Mary Henderson did it. I know it was her. Her hired man was seen near your property that morning. But I was young, scared. She threatened to kill my mother if I talked. Garrett looked at Jonas with agonized eyes. I'm sorry. God help me. I've carried this for 10 years. You thought you'd failed Sarah by not maintaining the wagon. But Jonas, you didn't kill them. Mary did. Jonas heard a roaring in his ears. His vision tunneled. 10 years. 10 years he'd lived with crushing guilt, believing his carelessness had murdered his wife and child. 10 years of self-hatred and whiskey, and waking up wishing he'd died instead. All because Garrett was too cowardly to speak. Jonas's fist shot through the bars, connecting with Garrett's jaw. The deputy fell backward. Jonas grabbed the bars, shaking them until the metal shrieked. Get out! His voice shattered. Get out before I kill you. Garrett stumbled to his feet, blood pouring from his split lip. Jonas, I can help now. You let me live in hell for 10 years. You watched me destroy myself. Jonas's hands were bleeding from gripping the bars. She murdered my family and you said nothing. Through the wall, Jonas heard movement in Mara's cell. She'd heard everything. Garrett fled, Jonas collapsed against the wall, dry sobs racking his body. Not tears he'd run out of those years ago. Just raw, animal sounds of a man realizing his entire grief was built on someone else's murder. Minutes or hours later, Jonas couldn't tell he heard voices in Mara's cell. Mary's honeyed tones, Mara's responses, too soft to make out. Then silence. Garrett returned, his face gray. He held papers. Jonas, Mara signed a confession. What? She confessed to shooting Tom. Said she discovered the truth about her father's murder and wanted revenge. Garrett's hand trembled. She signed away all claims to the Sullivan estate. She's taking full responsibility. You're cleared. Jonas lunged at the bars. No, Mara. But her cell was empty. They'd already moved her. Where is she? Courthouse. Judge Parker started the trial early. 10 minutes ago. Garrett unlocked Jonas's cell. She did it to save you. Jonas ran. He burst through the courthouse doors, prisoner's chains still dangling from his wrists. Judge Parker sat at the bench. Mara stood in the defendant's box, small and defeated. Your Honor, Jonas shouted. She's innocent. I have proof. Mr. McLean, you're in contempt. The rear doors crashed open. A man entered, tall, scarred, wearing a miner's coat. His voice rang through the courtroom. Your Honor, I'm Jake Morrison, and I'm very much alive. Mary Henderson's face went white as death. But then she smiled. The courtroom erupted. Jake Morrison strode down the aisle, confident and commanding. Jonas felt hope surge through his chest like wildfire. I witnessed Mary Henderson at the Sullivan mine the night Michael died, Jake declared, his voice carrying to every corner. I've kept silent out of fear, but no more. Judge Parker banged his gavel. Order, Mr. Morrison. Approach the bench. Mary Henderson stood slowly. Her face had transformed from shock to something else. A smile playing at her lips, Jonas's hope wavered. Blackwood rose, buttoning his coat. Your Honor, I'd like to cross-examine this witness. Proceed. Mr. Morrison. Blackwood circled like a vulture. You claim you saw Mrs. Henderson at the mine. What time? Around midnight. Midnight, interesting. Blackwood pulled papers from his portfolio because according to official mine records, Michael Sullivan died at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. His body was discovered by the day shift supervisor. Here's the signed death certificate. Jake's confidence cracked. I must have the time wrong. Must you? Blackwood's voice sharpened. Or perhaps you're simply reading from a script. He turned to Judge Parker. Your Honor, this man is not Jake Morrison. He's Samuel Reed, an actor from Denver. We have witnesses who saw him being paid $200 at the Silver Star Saloon last night. The courtroom exploded. Jonas felt the floor drop away. Furthermore, Blackwood continued, the real Jake Morrison was found murdered 3 miles outside town this morning. Shot through the head. He produced a photograph of the corpse. Deputy Garrett can confirm this is the actual Jake Morrison. Garrett stood, face ashen. It's true. The dead man. That's Jake. Judge Parker's gavel cracked like thunder. Mr. McLean, did you hire this imposter to fabricate testimony? No, I've never seen him before. He's desperate. Mary Henderson's voice trembled with manufactured grief. Tom was investigating Jonas for fraud. He murdered my dear friend to hide the truth. She pressed a handkerchief to her eyes. And now he stages this theatrical deception. The fake Jake Samuel Reed was already backing toward the door. I was just doing a job. They told me it was for a play. Deputies grabbed him before he could flee. Mara stood in the defendant's box, swaying. Jonas saw her last shred of hope dying in her eyes. Enough. She stripped off her coat, rolling up her sleeves. Gasps rippled through the courtroom as scars came into view, burns, cuts, marks from years of abuse covering her arms. You want the truth? Mary Henderson tortured me for 10 years. The crowd stared, horrified. For one moment, Jonas thought they might finally see. Then Blackwood spoke, his voice dripping false sympathy. Your Honor, these injuries are tragic. But Dr. Pierce has documented Miss Sullivan's history of self-harm. Dr. Pierce stood from the gallery. I've treated Miss Sullivan since she was 16. She suffers from severe delusions and has repeatedly injured herself. I have detailed medical records. Liar, Mara screamed. You gave me drugs, you made me. Classic paranoia. Pierce continued smoothly. She believes everyone is conspiring against her. It's a documented condition. Judge Parker studied Mara with pity, the worst thing Jonas had ever seen. Not belief, not justice. Pity. You're all blind. Jonas roared. He fought against the deputies holding him. Mary Henderson murdered my wife. She murdered Michael Sullivan. She controls the bank, the doctor, the whole damn town. But the more desperate he sounded, the more he looked like a madman. Sweat poured down his face. His clothes were filthy from jail. Blood crusted his split knuckles. He looked exactly like what Mary wanted them to see, a violent, unstable man inventing conspiracies. Garrett stood. Your Honor, I have a confession. The room fell silent. 10 years ago, I knew Sarah McLean's wagon was sabotaged. I found evidence Mary Henderson was responsible. I kept silent because she threatened my family. His voice cracked. But I'm speaking now. Mary Henderson is a murderer. For 3 heartbeats, Jonas thought Garrett's sacrifice might save them. Then Blackwood laughed, actually laughed. How convenient. The deputy who spent all night alone with the accused suddenly remembers a decade-old conspiracy. He turned to the judge. Your Honor, this is clearly coached testimony. Deputy Garrett is trying to save his uncle through fabricated stories. He's telling the truth, Jonas shouted. But truth had become meaningless. Every piece of evidence twisted, every witness discredited. Mary Henderson had built a perfect cage of lies, and they were all trapped inside it. Judge Parker's face hardened. He raised his gavel. Jonas McLean, guilty of witness tampering and assault. 15 years hard labor at the territorial prison. No. Jonas lunged forward. Mara Sullivan. Not guilty by reason of insanity. Mara's knees buckled. What does that mean? You'll be remanded to Blackwood Asylum for psychiatric treatment, indefinitely. No. Jonas roared. You're sending her to die. That place is. Order Mary Henderson. All charges dismissed. The Sullivan estate is awarded to Mrs. Henderson as Miss Sullivan's legal guardian, given her mental incompetence. Mary Henderson smiled. She'd won everything. Deputies grabbed Jonas, dragging him toward one door. Others pulled Mara toward another exit. Jonas fought with animal desperation, chains rattling. Mara, don't let them take you fight. She looked back at him, and Jonas saw his own devastation reflected in her eyes. I love you, she mouthed. I'm sorry I wasn't enough. You are enough. You're everything, Mara. Please. The door slammed between them. Jonas heard her screaming his name from somewhere distant, the sound growing fainter. He thrashed against the deputies holding him, not caring when they struck him, not feeling the pain. He'd lost everything. The ranch, his freedom, the woman he'd chosen, truly chosen to spend his life with. Garrett knelt in the courtroom aisle, sobbing into his hands. The crowd dispersed, already forgetting. Mary Henderson adjusted her hat, victorious, outside. They shoved Jonas into a prison wagon. Through the barred window, he saw Mara being loaded into a black carriage marked Blackwood Asylum. She pressed her palm against the glass. He pressed his against the bars. The wagons rolled in opposite directions. Jonas slumped against the wall, feeling his soul tear in half. His hand fell into his coat pocket, brushing paper. He pulled it out a letter, yellowed with age. The handwriting was unfamiliar. He unfolded it. If you're reading this, I'm dead. The map everyone seeks is a decoy. The real mine is hidden beneath. The wagon lurched. Jonas grabbed the letter. But it slipped through his bleeding fingers, caught by the wind. The paper flew out through the bars, tumbling away down the dusty road. His last hope. Gone. The territorial prison squatted 40 miles from town. A hellscape of stone and suffering where men broke rocks under merciless sun. Jonas's chains bit into raw ankles as he swung the pickaxe, each impact sending lightning through his injured ribs. Move faster, rancher. Captain Hayes brought his club down across Jonas's shoulders. Think you're special, you're nothing here. Jonas stumbled but didn't fall. Couldn't fall. Falling meant death. An old man caught his elbow weathered as desert stone. Prisoner number burned into his shirt. Steady, son. Don't give Hayes the satisfaction. Jonas nodded, gasping. They worked in silence until the guards moved on. Name's Pete, the old man whispered. Knew Michael Sullivan back when. Good man. Talked about his daughter. His rheumy eyes studied Jonas. That'd be your wife they took? Yes. The word scraped Jonas's throat raw. Then you got something to live for. Most of us don't. Pete's pickaxe rang against stone. I'll teach you how to survive. You teach me why. That night in the barracks, Pete showed Jonas which guards drank, which walls had cracks, where the watch rotation changed. Small details. Seeds of hope. You're planning something? Pete observed. Not planning, promising. Jonas stared at his bleeding hands. I'm getting back to her. Count me in. I got nothing to lose but this miserable life, 40 miles away. Mara huddled in a cell that wept with dampness. 12 other women occupied the ward, all imprisoned by families who wanted their money, their land, their inconvenient truths silenced. Nurse Beatrice's keys jangled. Sullivan, time for treatment. The ice bath nearly killed her. Mara's lungs burned as they held her under frigid water until her lips turned blue, until she couldn't remember her own name. They called it therapy. It was torture disguised as medicine. Afterward, shaking violently under a thin blanket, Mara felt someone slip in beside her. A young woman with haunted eyes pressed close, sharing warmth. Don't scream next time, the woman whispered. It makes them keep you under longer. I'm Lily. How long have you been here? 5 years. My husband wanted to marry his mistress. Easier to call me insane than divorce me. Lily's laugh was broken glass. Welcome to where inconvenient women disappear. Over days, Mara learned their stories. Grace, whose brother wanted her inheritance. Catherine, who refused an arranged marriage. Anna, who witnessed her employer's embezzlement. Every woman a threat to some man's comfort. We could fight, Mara said during their brief exercise period. Fight how? Lily's voice was hollow. They'll just drug us more. Then we refuse everything. Food, treatment, medicine. Mara's voice grew stronger. 13 of us. The scandal alone. They'll force-feed us. Let them try. Make them work for it. Make it public. Mara grabbed Lily's hand. I spent 10 years accepting what they said I was. I'm done accepting. Something shifted in Lily's eyes. Then Grace's. Then Catherine's. One by one. The women nodded. Jonas studied the prison routine with Hunter's patience. Lunch at noon, guards ate first. Shift change at 2 a.m. 12 minutes when the north wall went unwatched. Hayes drank himself stupid every Saturday night. We go Saturday, Jonas told Pete. When the next supply wagon comes. A young guard named Tommy approached them during water break. My sister's in Blackwood, he whispered urgently. Grace Morrison, I heard you talking. You're planning something. Jonas weighed the risk. Maybe. I can help? Get you out? Get you to Blackwood? Tommy's jaw clenched. But you save Grace too. And the others if you can. Deal. Tommy slipped Jonas a letter that night from Garrett. Jonas read it by moonlight, filtering through the barracks window. I know where the real mine is. Found your coat. The letter was caught in the lining. Read it. Mary doesn't know the truth. I'm searching for Tom's recording. There's still a chance. Saturday night. I'll be ready. Jonas unfolded the letter carefully. Michael Sullivan's handwriting covered both sides. The map is false, planted to distract Mary. The real vein runs beneath the old barn foundation on McLean's ranch. Mara knows the song Red River Valley. I taught her each verse marks a location. The fourth verse, from this valley, they say you are going, points true north from the barn center post. 15 paces. Dig down 6 feet. The silver is yours. Daughter, use it to be free. Papa. Jonas traced the words with his finger. The mine. The real fortune. Hidden where Mary would never think to look on the land she'd stolen and resold. He memorized every word. Then burned the letter. Knowledge was too dangerous to carry. Garrett tore through Tom's house like a madman. The recording had to be here. Tom always kept insurance. In the locked drawer of Tom's desk, beneath false bottom boards. Garrett found it a wax cylinder wrapped in oilcloth. His hands shook as he lifted it. He carried it to the sheriff's office, set up the phonograph with trembling fingers. The cylinder spun. Scratchy voices emerged. Mary Henderson. Michael won't wake up from the arsenic. Good. And the McLean wagon, Dr. Pierce brake line cut clean. She'll crash before sundown. Mary. Perfect. Jonas loses his wife. Michael loses his life. I win everything. 20 years I've waited. Now it's all mine. Garrett played it 3 times. Tears streaming. Here was the truth. Undeniable. Damning. He wrapped the cylinder carefully. Saturday night. Everything converged. In Blackwood Asylum. Mara stood before Dr. Thornton during group therapy. Why do you think you're here, Miss Sullivan? The doctor asked. Pen poised over his notes. The old Mara would have said, because I'm worthless, because I deserve it. but that Mara was dead. "I'm here," she said clearly, "because someone powerful fears what I represent. And what's that? The truth, and the fact that even broken things can be dangerous when they decide to stop breaking." Dr. Thornton frowned. "That sounds like a threat." "No, it's a promise." Mara turned to the other women. "We start tonight. No food, no compliance. We make them see us." 12 women met her eyes. 12 women nodded. Dr. Thornton scribbled frantically, but he couldn't write fast enough to capture what was happening. 12 broken women becoming something unbreakable. Saturday dawned. 3 separate plans. 3 desperate people. 1 convergent hope. Jonas watched the sun climb, counting hours. Pete had stolen extra bread, hidden tools. Tommy had the keys ready. Garrett loaded his gun, tucked the recording into his coat. Rode toward the prison. Mara and the women refused breakfast, refused lunch. When Nurse Beatrice tried to force-feed Catherine, all 13 women linked arms and wouldn't move. "Dr. Thornton," Beatrice screamed. "They're rioting." The pieces were sliding into place. The rally had begun. Jonas sat in his cell that evening, muscles coiled. 2 hours until shift change. Tommy would unlock the door. Pete would create a distraction. They'd run for the north wall, for horses, for freedom, for Mara. Footsteps echoed down the corridor. Jonas tensed. Captain Hayes appeared. Behind him, immaculate in violet silk, stood Mary Henderson. "Hello, Jonas." Her smile was poison honey. "I've come to make you one final offer you can't refuse." Mary Henderson circled Jonas's cell like a cat with cornered prey. "Sign this confession. Admit Mara is insane. Renounce all claims to the Sullivan estate." She slid papers through the bars. "In exchange, freedom tomorrow. $5,000. A new life in California. And Mara stays in Blackwood, where she belongs." Jonas looked at the papers escape. Money. Freedom. He thought of Mara's hand through the prison wall, her voice singing in the darkness. He ripped the papers in half. "I'd rather die in this cell than live without her." Mary's mask cracked. "You fool! You'll both die then." "Maybe." Jonas met her eyes. "But you'll lose too. The mine you want. It doesn't exist where you think." Mary's composure shattered. "What?" "Michael Sullivan was smarter than you. The map you killed for it's fake." Jonas smiled coldly. "The real silver. You'll never find it." Mary's hand flew to her throat. "You're lying." "Am I? Why else would I stay silent? I know exactly where it is." He leaned closer. "And it's eating you alive that I won't tell." Mary grabbed the bars, all pretense gone. "Tell me. Name your price." "There is no price. You can't buy what you've already lost." She stepped back, breathing hard. Then her face transformed cold, calculated murder in her eyes. "Fine. Tonight at midnight, Dr. Thornton performs a lobotomy on Mara. They'll cut into her brain. She'll be breathing, but empty. A living corpse." Mary adjusted her gloves. "That's what happens to women who refuse to cooperate." Jonas went cold. "What?" "You have 6 hours to change your mind. After that, there won't be enough of Mara left to save." She walked away, heels clicking like a death knell. The moment she disappeared, Jonas grabbed the bars. "Pete, Tommy, we go now." Tommy appeared with keys. "But the shift change isn't until... There's no time." Jonas burst from the cell the instant it opened. She's going to lobotomize Mara. Pete and 5 other prisoners flooded into the corridor. Jonas grabbed a pickaxe from the tool rack. Captain Hayes rounded the corner, club raised. Jonas swung the pickaxe. The handle connected with Hayes' skull. The captain dropped. Riot. Someone screamed. Chaos erupted, prisoners against guards. Jonas fought through the melee. Pete at his back. They reached the armory. Tommy threw them rifles. The north wall. Tommy shouted, "Go!" Jonas ran. Behind him. The prison erupted into full rebellion. Bells clanged. Gunshots cracked the night air. They hit the wall. Pete produced a hidden rope. "Go, I'll hold them off." "Pete, I'm 70 years old and got nothing to lose. You got everything." Pete shoved him toward the wall. "Save her. Save them all." Jonas climbed. At the top. He looked back. Pete stood in the courtyard, rifle raised, buying him seconds with his life. Jonas dropped into darkness and ran. The guard's horse was tied outside. Jonas cut it loose, swung into the saddle. The horse bolted. Behind him. The prison burned orange against the night sky. 20 miles. The river ahead, swollen from rain. No bridge, just rapids that had drowned 3 men last month. Jonas urged the horse faster. They hit the water at full gallop. The current grabbed them, dragging them downstream. Jonas gripped the saddle as water closed over his head. The horse screamed, thrashing. They surfaced, swam. The horse's hooves found purchase on the far bank. They dragged themselves onto land, both heaving. 15 miles left. The horse was exhausted. Jonas dismounted, running alongside to spare its strength. His prison-weakened legs burned. Didn't matter. Only Mara mattered. 10 miles. The horse stumbled, went down. Jonas kept running, 5 miles on foot. His lungs were fire. Blood filled his mouth. The clock in his mind counted down, 11:47 p.m. 13 minutes at Blackwood Asylum. Nurse Beatrice unlocked the ward door. "Sullivan, time for surgery." The 13 women formed a wall in front of Mara. "You'll have to go through all of us," Lily said quietly. Beatrice blew her whistle. 6 guards thundered in, clubs swinging. They beat the women aside. Grace collapsed, blood streaming from her scalp. Catherine took a blow to the ribs, doubled over, gasping. "Stop!" Mara screamed. "I'll go. Just don't hurt them." Lily grabbed her arm. "Mara, no. I won't let you die for me." Mara kissed Lily's forehead. "But I won't go quietly either." They dragged her to the surgery room. Dr. Thornton waited, instruments gleaming under lamplight. The surgical chair had restraints leather straps stained with old blood. They strapped her down. Mara fought every second, making them work for it. The clock on the wall read 11:54. "This is for your own good," Thornton murmured, lifting a wicked steel blade. "You won't feel a thing soon." The blade descended toward her temple. The window exploded inward. Jonas crashed through in a shower of glass, blood streaming from a dozen cuts. He tackled Thornton, and they went down in a tangle of limbs and steel instruments. Guards swarmed. Jonas fought like a demon, fists, elbows, teeth. He grabbed a chair, swung it into one guard's face, took a knife to his side from another. Didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Mara. He reached the surgical chair, tearing at her restraints with bloody fingers. She grabbed his face. "You came." "Always." He freed her arms. She snatched the surgical blade, cut the ankle straps herself. Dr. Thornton lunged with a scalpel. Mara drove the surgical blade into his hand. He shrieked, She twisted the knife and he fell. Suddenly, the front doors burst open. Garrett charged in with Judge Parker and 10 armed deputies. Garrett carried something carefully, a wax cylinder. Everyone freeze. The guard stopped. Jonas pulled Mara behind him, ready to fight anyone who came closer. Judge Parker's face was granite. "Deputy Garrett, play the recording." Garrett set up the phonograph. The cylinder spun. Mary Henderson's voice filled the asylum, clear as confession. "Michael won't wake up from the arsenic. Jonas loses his wife. I win everything." Every face turned white. The admission echoed off asylum walls: murder, conspiracy, malice. "Where is Mary Henderson?" Judge Parker demanded. A door opened. Mary stepped from the director's office, a pistol in her hand pressed against Lily's temple. "Let me walk out of here, or she dies." Lily whimpered. Mara took a step forward. "Stay back." Mary's hand shook. "It's over, Mary." Garrett said, "We have everything. Your voice, the evidence, witnesses. You have nothing without me. No one finds that mine." Mary's composure cracked. "I sacrificed everything. I removed Michael, Sarah, Tom, everyone who stood in my way. Shoot me." Mara walked forward, arms spread. "You've been trying to kill me for 10 years. Finish it." "Mara, don't." Jonas reached for her, but Mara kept walking, eyes locked on Mary. "Pull the trigger. Prove I mattered enough to murder." Mary's gun wavered. Her hand trembled violently. I can't." "No." Mara stopped inches from the barrel. "Because killing me means admitting I was never nothing. I was everything you feared." Mary's face collapsed. The gun fell from her fingers. She sank to her knees, years of poison finally burning through her. "I did it all," she screamed. "Michael, Sarah, Tom, I killed them all, and for what?" She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "For a mind that doesn't even exist where I thought." She sobbed into her hands. "I sacrificed everything for nothing." Judge Parker nodded to his deputies. They moved forward with handcuffs. A deputy burst through the door. "Your Honor, Sheriff Whitaker just woke up. He's asking for you." At the hospital, Tom Whitaker sat propped on pillows, pale but alive. He pressed his sheriff's badge into Judge Parker's hands. "Open it." Parker pried the badge apart. Hidden inside was a tiny recording device, still spinning. Tom's weak voice: "Mary Henderson shot me when I told her I had evidence. I recorded everything before I collapsed. It's all there." Mary Henderson was led away in chains, still weeping. With her went Dr. Pierce, Dr. Thornton, Captain Hayes, her entire web of corruption. Judge Parker addressed the asylum. "Every woman here is released pending individual review. This facility is closed." 13 women wept with relief. Jonas caught Mara as her knees buckled. They collapsed together on the asylum floor, holding each other like drowning people finding shore. "I thought I'd lost you," Jonas whispered into her hair. "You came through a window for me. I'd come through hell." Garrett knelt beside them. "The mine." "Jonas, did Michael's letter say where?" "Under the barn, on my ranch." Jonas looked up. "The ranch the bank foreclosed on this morning." A deputy ran in, face grave. "Judge Parker, Mary Henderson's brother James just filed papers. Claims the Sullivan estate is bankrupt. Everything goes to Henderson Bank by law. The filing goes through at noon tomorrow." Jonas and Mara stared at each other. They'd won the battle, but had they already lost the war? Dawn broke over a changed world. Jonas and Mara had 12 hours before James Henderson's filing became final. 12 hours to find a fortune or lose everything. They rode to the ranch together, Jonas on a borrowed horse, Mara behind him with arms wrapped tight around his waist. Garrett and Judge Parker followed with deputies. The 13 freed women came too, refusing to be left behind. Papa's letter said the 4th verse of Red River Valley, Mara said as they dismounted at the old barn. He taught me that song every night. She sang softly. From this valley they say you are going. We will miss your bright eyes and sweet smile. North from the barn's center post, Jonas translated. 15 paces. They measured carefully. Jonas and Garrett began digging. 6 feet down. Their shovels struck something that wasn't earth wooden crates, carefully sealed. They hauled them up. Inside, not silver, gold, bars of it, stamped with assay marks, 200 pounds worth $70,000. Judge Parker whistled low. Michael Sullivan was a careful man. At 11:47 a.m., Jonas and Mara walked into Henderson Bank. James Henderson looked up from his desk, smirking. Come to beg, you're 13 minutes early for your dispossession. Jonas dropped a leather satchel on the desk. Gold bars spilled across the mahogany. $4,200, every cent we owe, plus interest. James's face went purple. This gold needs verification. I'll verify it. Judge Parker entered behind them. It's real. Accept payment, Mr. Henderson. Your bank's fraud investigation begins Monday. James took the gold with shaking hands. Judge Parker stamped the documents paid in full. The ranch was theirs. The mine was theirs. Everything Michael Sullivan had hidden was finally returned to his daughter. Over the following weeks, the town transformed. The truth about Mary Henderson spread like wildfire. People who'd mocked Mara for years now crossed the street, shamefaced, unable to meet her eyes. Mrs. Benson knocked on the ranch door with an apple pie. I'm sorry. For the stones, for everything. Mara took the pie but didn't smile. Apologies don't erase scars, Mrs. Benson. But they're a start. Reverend Henry invited Mara to speak at Sunday service. She stood before the congregation that had scorned her, wearing a simple blue dress. Forgiveness, she said, doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing not to let cruelty define your future. Some of you hurt me, deeply. But I won't become bitter. I'll become better. Half the congregation wept. Jonas and Mara converted the south pasture into small cottages. The 13 women from Blackwood moved in a community of survivors, helping each other heal. Lily discovered she had a gift for baking. Her bread became famous 3 towns over. Within months, she'd saved enough to open a small bakery. Grace reunited with her brother Tommy. They built a house together on the edge of the property. Tommy left the prison service, started training horses instead. One by one, the women found themselves. Not the selves society had tried to force on them, but who they'd always been underneath. Jonas and Mara spent evenings on the porch, learning each other without crisis between them. He taught her to manage cattle. She taught him to keep books turned out. She had a head for numbers that left him stunned. You could run a business, he said, reviewing her ledgers. I am running a business, ours. She smiled. Equal partners. Remember, 3 weeks after their rescue. Jonas arranged a real wedding. No shotgun ceremony in a desperate plot, a choice A celebration. They married at sunset on the ranch, surrounded by the 13 women, Garrett, Judge Parker, Tom Whitaker in a wheeled chair, and half the town who'd come to make amends. Mara wore a dress she'd chosen herself, simple white cotton with wildflowers in her hair. Jonas wore his Sunday best, his father's pocket watch in his vest. "I choose you," Jonas said, his vows unrehearsed. "Not because I have to, because I want to. Every single day. For the rest of my life." Mara's voice was steady. "You saw me when I was invisible. You made me believe I mattered. I choose you too. Every day. Forever." Tom Whitaker gave Mara away, tears streaming down his weathered face. "Michael would be proud," he whispered. "So damn proud." The reception lasted until dawn. The women danced. Garrett smiled for the first time in years. Even the townspeople who tormented Mara seemed to understand that they were witnessing something sacred, the triumph of human dignity over cruelty. Tom recovered slowly but surely. He resigned as sheriff, moved into a small cottage on the ranch. "If you'll have an old fool who took too long to do right." "Family doesn't get turned away," Mara said, hugging him carefully. Jonas visited Mary Henderson once at the territorial prison. She'd aged a decade in 2 months, her beauty corroded by guilt. "Why did you come?" she asked through the bars. "To tell you that we're selling the mine. Using the money to help women escape situations like Mara's." He paused. "And to tell you that despite everything, Mara forgives you." Mary laughed bitterly. "She shouldn't." "No, but she does anyway. That's who she is." Mary turned away, but Jonas saw her shoulders shake with sobs. 2 months after the wedding, Mara visited Mary herself. The older woman looked shocked to see her. "Why?" Mary whispered. "Because carrying hate for you is poisoning me. This is for me, not you." Mara took a breath. "I forgive you. Not because you deserve it, because I deserve peace." Mary buried her face in her hands and wept. The gold mine funded their new mission. They established Sullivan House, a refuge for abused women across 3 territories. Mara ran it with fierce compassion, turning her pain into purpose. Judge Parker ordered Blackwood Asylum permanently closed. Every woman incarcerated there received review. 80% were released victims of family greed disguised as medical care. Mara and Jonas funded a reintegration program. Jobs, housing, legal help, real second chances. Financially, they thrived. The ranch expanded. They employed 30 people from town, paying fair wages. The mine operated ethically. Profits shared with workers. Mara's body healed without Dr. Pierce's poison drugs. She lost weight naturally, became strong from ranch work. But more importantly, she stopped measuring her worth by her appearance. One evening, Jonas found her looking in the mirror, not with hatred, but simple acceptance. "You're beautiful," he said, wrapping arms around her from behind. "I'm me," she corrected. "That's better than beautiful." Jonas laid Sarah's photograph on a shelf in their bedroom, visible but not enshrined. He'd made peace with his past. "Sarah wanted me happy," he told Mara. "She'd have liked you. I hope so. I like who I am with you." Life settled into peaceful rhythm. Morning coffee, checking cattle, evenings with their found family, the women, Tom, Garrett, everyone who'd fought beside them. 6 months after the wedding, Mara stood watching sunset from the porch. Jonas joined her, slipping his hand into hers. I have something to tell you, she said quietly. What is it? She placed his hand on her stomach. I think I'm pregnant. Jonas's world tilted. He dropped to his knees, pressing his face against her belly. Joy and terror and hope crashed through him. A baby, he whispered. Ours. Are you happy? He stood, pulled her close, and kissed her deeply. I'm everything. 5 years later, Jonas and Mara stood on their porch watching their children play. Hope, 4 years old, and Michael, 2, named for his grandfather. The ranch had become more than a home. It was sanctuary. Sullivan House had helped over 100 women escape abuse. Lily's Bakery employed 15 people. Grace married Tommy and had twins. The 13 women who'd survived Blackwood together now lived as family, their cottages forming a community built on shared strength. Mara taught Hope what her own childhood never taught her. Beauty is how you treat others, not what you look like. Your worth isn't in a mirror, it's in your heart. Jonas published a memoir, The Weight of Grace. Every penny went to Sullivan House. The opening line read, I thought I was choosing a wife out of necessity. God was choosing a partner out of mercy. The town erected a memorial in the square where Mara had once been mocked, in memory of all who were invisible. May we learn to see. If you've ever felt invisible, unworthy, or judged by appearance, this story is for you. Comment below if you've ever felt overlooked, but found your strength anyway. Share this if you know someone who needs to hear they matter. Tag the person who saw your worth when nobody else did. You are seen. You are valued. You are enough. 1 in 4 women experiences body shaming. 2.4 million face domestic abuse annually. Your kindness can change a life. Be the Jonas in someone's story. Choose to see people's hearts, not their appearance. Real beauty is choosing courage over comfort. Real love is choosing someone every single day.